Hi, everybody, and I guess I should start with a Happy New Year to you all. It is really good to be back and in a new year and sitting with someone you've never seen before, most of you. This is Doug Wicks. Doug and I are old friends, college friends, and we spent some time together then, and then we have some other parts to our little bit of a history together that are going to come out actually in this very first video. This series is called A Mission in Life, and we're going to talk about some of the ways that God leads and guides us to be representatives of Him in the world and use some mission principles that missionaries employ. And that's partly because that's where Doug's background is in some of those things. So let me introduce you to Doug, and we'll get started a little bit from there. Doug, you didn't start mostly with golf, you started with baseball more.
That's right.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that. How did you get started in baseball and then move to golf?
Yeah, so I played baseball my entire life growing up, and I had a kind of a spiritual experience in high school, and that actually caused me to quit baseball. And I didn't think I was going to play baseball ever again, and then I went down, met you at Biola, and started playing baseball again. I was walking by the baseball field way too often, and with just my heart went out to that field, and I walked on and played 4 years of baseball at Biola.
That's really funny because all of my life, one of my great things that I wrestle with is, as a golfer, has been having to, say, stay in a hotel or a house right next to a golf course, knowing I can't play while I'm there. So that's very funny. That's very funny.
Yeah.
But then after college, you actually got connected to golf more. Tell me about that.
I didn't play golf really at all growing up, and when I left Biola, I found myself with time to play golf, and I played golf and got good quickly, and eventually got in the golf business and was actually a PGA member for a number of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yet neither baseball nor golf were the calling that God eventually put on your life.
Right.
Yeah.
That happened when I was working as a director of communication at the Southern California section of the PGA, and I was sitting in church one day and was just confronted with the idea that there were entire people groups in the world that don't have a single word of Scripture. And I nudged my wife in the pew that day, and I said, "What do you think about going to Africa and being Bible translators?"
Oh, no, it actually happens.
It happens.
That thing where God says you're going to Africa.
That's right.
The great fear that most new believers especially have.
And you know what she said? She said, "Sure."
Wow. Isn't that
She
something?
was a financial analyst at Disneyland, and I was working in the PGA at the time. So it was and we began the journey at that moment.
Yeah. Wow. Well, in Scripture, we know in Romans that Paul talks about, if people are going to hear, someone has to preach to them.
That's right.
And then he says, who is going to preach unless they are sent?
That's right.
This was your sending, wasn't it?
It was. Our little church in Huntington Beach sent us out, a young couple with no kids, and we found ourselves in a village in Uganda a few years later, helping a people group to get Scripture for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that some more as we go forward. But let me ask you this question. I joked there a little bit about God actually does send people to faraway places.
Yeah.
But when we are given a mission in life by the Lord, it may be right next door, or it may be distant. Have you seen that played out in different people's lives through the years?
Oh yeah, and to me, there's this man I've come to meet, and he's a friend in our ministry that I'm involved with. He wrote this book called The 10-Second Rule, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but it basically, if you need to make a decision within 10 seconds how you're going to deal with what you've been. Otherwise, in essence, it becomes it can become a thorn in your side.
Oh yeah.
And it was at that moment, when we were confronted with this opportunity, I needed to nudge my wife at that point and we needed to decide what we're going to do within that 10 seconds. And I think it's, happens with, when we see our neighbor across the street that we haven't talked to for as long well, too long. And, you
Right.
need to make a decision right then. What am I going to do about this? And if you wait longer than 10 seconds, according to this guy's theory, you miss an opportunity.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's maybe pick up that 10-second
Yeah.
idea as we go forward into some of these other topics.
Yeah.
Great to meet you, Doug, so to speak.
Nice to be here.
And good to have you here. And I hope that as we go forward, you will get a sense of maybe how God is calling you to some of the things that are coming up in your life.